All right, welcome everybody. We are excited to have you join us. This is OETC's webinar on the new Microsoft M365 licensing framework. During the presentation, if you have any questions, you can submit them in the Q&A window that Zoom provides. We have our team will either answer them during the webinar or anything that's not answered during the webinar, I'll take time at the end of the webinar to go through those questions. So go ahead and add them to the Q&A box as we proceed along. My name is Thomas Richards. I'm OETC's Executive Director, and I'll be leading this webinar. The Microsoft M365 licensing is one of the more significant evolutions of Microsoft licensing over the past decade. I am not alone at OETC, though, in being a resource for you and our greater membership. We have a team at OETC that can support you. We have Dale Eckstein. He's on the call with us today. He handles a lot of our quoting and our Microsoft licensing support. Aaron works to process orders and lead the renewals process. And we also have Cowie and Jim on the members relation team who can help with your questions and provide quote updates. Additionally, we have our Microsoft licensing reseller, Insight, who can provide support to our membership. We use them as a resource all the time. So there's a whole team to not only help you through this transition, but any other licensing or greater technology question you may have. So don't hesitate to reach out. We handle over 500 Microsoft agreements across our membership. And so while every member is unique, we have a lot of experience to draw upon when helping you figure this out. You're not alone in this. And OETC is a nonprofit formed by our membership. So we're here to serve you and only your interests in your technology purchasing and integration. You can count on us to give you unbiased advice and consultation, whether it's about Microsoft licensing or any other kind of ed tech integration that you want to do. What you'll learn today, first, we're going to talk about EQU, which is the new licensing unit of measurement for M365. We're going to then compare the old framework to the new one. We'll give you an overview of the three major licensing SKUs, A1 versus A3 versus A5. Then we'll go into the popular add-on and the benefits of this new framework, including special use rights and student use benefits. And then finally, we'll talk about why you might choose OETC for your M365 licensing. And we'll also consider OVS-ES, which is a legacy program that is still available that may be an option for some of you if the M365 is not the right choice for you moving forward. So let's get started. The one note I do want to say before we go, we will make this deck available to everyone. So if you're wondering if you can get a hold of this, we already have it online and we'll send out a link to everyone that's a part of this call. The first thing to know about M365 is EQU. EQU stands for Education Qualified User, and it's the new unit of measurement of licensing on the ES agreement. EQU replaces FTE, which stood for full-time equivalent. Previously with FTE, there was a calculation where you counted full-time staff and faculty, and then you got to count part-time staff in half and part-time faculty in a third. And all of that is gone now with the EQU and the new Microsoft licensing framework called M365. You can read the definition on the slide, but the shorthand is if you need an education platform product, which is A3 or A5, then you need to license it. You need to count that person as an EQU. And we'll get into what A3 and A5 have. But essentially, if those people in your district or university need A3 or A5, you count them as EQU. If they can get away with just using A1, then you don't need to count them as part of your EQU. So typically, almost everyone's EQU will be higher than their previous FTE. And it can range. Sometimes it's not a lot higher, depending on how you license and manage your licensing at your institution. And sometimes it can be quite a bit higher. And we'll get into strategies if you find out that it is quite a bit higher. For people who don't need a platform product, perhaps that's a substitute teacher or maybe even adjunct faculty, you get to license them as what's called a light user, which gets them A1. We'll, again, get more on A1 and A3. Please note, you do not have to count student workers for EQU purposes. Initially, when M365 was released, you did. So if you've got some old information on M365, then you might have seen that. but Microsoft has since changed that. Student workers do not need to count for EQU purposes. So this slide is going to tell you a little bit about what is the difference between the Education Desktop Bundle, which was probably our most popular licensing on the old EES model, versus Microsoft M365 A3. So with your new EQU count, what you get, especially when compared to the prior desktop bundle. First, let me just pause here and say, I keep saying the old EES framework, we now call it pre-2017. You did not necessarily have the desktop bundle on pre-2017. You could have had one of 6 qualifying products, maybe just Windows or just Office. Those products by themselves no longer qualify for M365. If you were purchasing just Office or just Windows on the pre-2017 framework, you should reach out to us for a one-to-one call to discuss your options. You may be a candidate for OVSES instead. This webinar, we're mainly focused on M365, and that basically is a replacement for the desktop bundle. So back to the desktop bundle on the pre-2017 framework versus M365. On the pre-2017 desktop bundle, you got to download a version of Office Pro Plus. You had Windows Education upgrade license and either the Core Cal or the Enterprise Cal, which we call the eCal. You were then granted access to the online version of Office 365. In M365 with the A3 bundle, you technically license Office 365 and you get download rights for up to 5 machines per EQU. You still get Windows Education and a Cal suite, either Core Cal or eCal, depending on what you had before. In addition, you also get Minecraft and the Enterprise Mobility Suite, which among other things comes with Intune for mobile device management and Azure Active Directory Premium Plan 1 for identity management, self-service password reset, that side of things. The EMS suite alone was a significant upgrade under the pre-2017 framework, and now it's included as part of the new A3 bundle on the M365 framework. So that is how the pre-2017 Education Desktop Bundle compares to the new M365 A3 license, which is the most common license to get on M365. Let's now get into a little more detail about the other products and benefits available on M365. First, when we talked about EQU, we said everyone at your institution who isn't an EQU is then a light user, and light users get A1. A1 consists of Office 365 A1, which is the online only version of Office, and then Exchange, SharePoint, and Skype, along with Azure Active Directory Basic for education. You then license your EQU at either A3 or A5. I went over A3 already, which is the most popular option. And then there is A5, which includes everything in A3, plus additional products, which you can see here. Most members consider purchase A5 because of Office ATP and Windows Defender ATP and Azure Active Directory Premium Plan 2. Those products can also be purchased separately, so you don't have to buy A5 to get those as a bundle. You can buy A3 and just buy some of those products. I would say the majority of our members are on A3. Only a couple of members are on A5. It is a significant upgrade, both in the features you get, but and in the price. Probably the most popular option that people add on top of A3 is what's called the A5 Security Bundle. The A5 Security Bundle is a way to get the cybersecurity features of A5 without paying for all of A5. These products were so popular that Microsoft created them as a separate add-on. Again, it's called the M365 A5 Security Add-on. And you can see in this chart what you get in the A5 Security Add-on versus what you get if you bought the full A5. And that is the biggest difference here. You're going to get Office ATP. You're going to get Azure Active Directory Premium Plan 2. You're going to get Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. That Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection is for your EQU and does not come with the student use benefit of that. That is a different add-on. So that's something to be aware of. If you choose to consider this, get a quote for this, we'll be happy to talk to you about it in detail. One of the biggest differences now when you adopt M365 is you get special use rights. First, you get server installation rights. Now you can get Exchange Server, SharePoint Server, and Skype for Business Server licenses for free, as many as you need of those things on-prem. You no longer have to pay for them. When you do get licensed for home use, you can assign users Office 365 Pro Plus, and this includes students, and then they can download Office 365 Pro Plus to up to 5 of their own devices. And that includes their own devices if they want. They get desktop rights, which is the ability to download these products, including downgrade rights if you are on a prior version of Office or a prior version of Windows. And then, of course, you get the Enterprise Cal Suite rights that you were familiar with in your prior desktop bundle. Another big difference between M365 and the prior pre-2017 EES is the student use benefits are included. When you purchase A3, you get basically 40 student licenses for every 1 EQU you purchase. We've never had anyone that didn't cover their students so far. And it's usually way more than they need. If you buy a single add-on, you get 15 student licenses for that add-on. So if you buy just A3, but then you add Office ATP in addition, you're going to get the 40 student use benefits of A3, and then you're going to get 15 student use benefits of the Office ATP. I encourage you to look at this chart carefully and download it separately on the documentation that we have, because there are some details in here. We will be happy to go over them with you individually if that's what you need also. But this is a change and additional benefit that was not a part of the prior EES licensing. You know, why should you be getting your ES licensing or any of your Microsoft licensing through OETC versus many of the other ways that you can do it? First, we do a multi-state RFP-backed contract. We represent you, and we go and do an RFP that meets state requirements in all of our member states. This is so you don't all individually have to do that. Because of that, we get phenomenal pricing. We also have one of the lowest EQU minimums. Typically, you would need 1,000 EQU to qualify for M365. With OETC, you only have to have 20. We all get level B pricing, which is you normally have to have 3,000 to 10,000 EQU to get level B pricing, and everyone gets that here automatically, even if you only have 20 EQU, and we will support you. We have our team here and the reseller Insight that will support you and answer all your questions. And many of you also have Microsoft support also. I do want to make a quick note about when you might consider OVS EES. Microsoft has this program. It is similar to pre-2017 EES licensing. So it's similar to probably what you're already on. It's called OVS EES. It is typically about 5 to 7% more expensive than your current licensing program. So that's why we never used it before, because it was the same as what we had and our program was cheaper. But 5 to 7%, well, no one likes to have an increase. That might be less of an increase than going to M365, depending on your unique situation. So first of all, if you have less than 999 FTE, you might qualify for OVS ES. If you have over 999 FTE, you do not qualify for OVS ES. Now, the majority of our membership does not have 999 FTE, but some do. So I want to call that out. So if you have less than 999 FTE, why you might consider OVS ES, that's if you do not license the desktop bundle right now. So if you're just licensing the core Cal, or maybe just Windows, or maybe Office, or maybe even just Office and Windows, you might want to get a quote for OVS ES. It might be cheaper than going to M365, which is a good value if you're on the desktop bundle, but it might be more expensive than you're ready to jump to right now. Another reason is if your EQU is much higher than your FTE. That's not typical, but it does happen. So if you've been counting your FTE and getting that really low, and now your EQU will be much higher, OVS ES might be a more effective way to get the licenses. Now, again, you do not get student use benefits. You do not get special use rights. You do not get Minecraft. You do not get Intune. It is the old program. And I can't say it's going to, OVS ES is going to stay around forever, but it is around now. And if during your transition you sign up for it, I'm sure Microsoft will honor it for your entire agreement. So the next steps that you should do is you should contact us. You can go to our support portal, support.oec.org. You can download this information that we've given you here at oetc.org/M365. That will get you the slides. And of course, any questions you have, you just put in help@oetc.org. Our entire team kind of monitors that, and we'll assign it based on your question to the right person. Typically that will be Dale or Aaron or myself, or Cowie or Jim, depending on who's asking the question and the level of technicality of it. But we'll make sure we get all of your questions answered. And finally, I'd just like to say, OEC is more than just Microsoft licensing. We offer many software and hardware solutions for education. We'll be happy to talk to you about any of your needs. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And with that, I'm going to conclude our webinar. I'm going to take a look at the Q&A window and see if there are any other unanswered questions. If you are holding your question, by all means, please ask it in the Q&A, and we'll get those answered. So I'm going to switch over there now. Looks like Steed had one question and Dale already answered it, so terrific. Are there any other questions that we can go over now? Okay, because I don't see, oh, someone just came in here. Let's take a look. Is the cost per EQ similar to the cost per FT? Yes, it is similar. We've had, it depends on what agreement you were on and what you signed up. So I can't say it's the exact cost, but it is very similar. If you had the desktop bundle with Enterprise Cal, it's a very minor cost difference to the M365 bundle. The real cost difference tends to be that you might have to license more people as part of EQU than FTE. And I will say, if you had the desktop bundle and you had anything like Intune or Azure Active Directory Premium or ATP, then it is actually less expensive. And some of our members had that and actually saw their bill go down in that regard. And also for all of you that are on, or anyone that's in an April renewal, we are working on your quotes right now. And we'll get those out very quickly so that you can kind of see where you would be. But if you have to transition to M365 because your agreement is up, we'll need to get your EQU count. And we'll be sending out information about that shortly. Marilyn asked, the server licenses are at no cost. What they call the productivity server licenses are at no cost. So SharePoint and Exchange and Skype for on-premise are now at no cost. Yes, they are included. Windows and of course SQL and SCCM are still separate costs. They're not, unfortunately, bundling that in for us at this point. But the productivity servers are at no cost. All right, again, I really appreciate you taking time to meet with us today. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and send them in to help@OETC. We'll handle them. We'll walk you through every step of this if we need to. So I, again, appreciate your time with that. I'm going to conclude the webinar. Have a great Wednesday, everyone, and have a great rest of the week. Goodbye.